Hello everyone and welcome to Winter Moon Digital. My name is Chris. Today we have a video game review for the consoles. I'll be playing Outer Terror on PS5 and giving you my thoughts. I really knew nothing about this game when I was sent the review copy. Thank you, by the way, to the team over at Vox Pop Games for the digital media copy. I saw some of the marketing materials, including the art and overall style, and I was all in. That classic retro art style is usually a solid sell for me. In this case, the theme and presentation were somewhat overshadowed by the really dated feeling of the gameplay. Outer Terror is described as a roguelike shooter where essentially you are the weapon. If you've ever played a game called Vampire Survivors, then you know the type of game I'm talking about. You walk around collecting power-ups, leveling up your character, and slaying hordes of grotesque monsters. Outer Terror is just that, and combines those beloved mechanics with its gory retro theme that I mentioned before. However, I felt like the execution was just far below what I was expecting. Now, I'm all for a classic game with bad graphics, but the game has to hold up. The game has to be good. My struggle with Outer Terror was just that there are games out there exactly like this that are doing it better. Outer Terror really doesn't stand out on its own in any way. The graphics, while I'm assuming are intentionally designed poorly, just end up being boring and flat. All the enemies and characters look like muddy blobs, and the environments are sometimes difficult to navigate because an accessible terrain can be so indistinguishable from an inaccessible terrain. And like any classic video game, bad camera angles come out of nowhere and get you killed. The power-ups are also kind of underwhelming and repetitive. I rarely noticed a big difference as I upgraded my character's abilities. In Vampire Survivors, for example, it's much easier to distinguish an ability or an upgrade. The developers have created Outer Terror to be a reference to old-school comics, even going as far as to include quote-unquote issues that you can choose to play through. However, these stories are arbitrary, which was disappointing. It does not matter which story you pick. You can always choose any character to play through it. It just didn't make a lot of sense to me as a player. At first, the game was kind of giving me like a Twisted Metal vibe, where you'd play as a character and see their story play out all the way through. And while the playable characters do have unique starting abilities, the game still feels like you've just been thrown into a random map for no apparent reason. There are objectives and side quests, which I do appreciate. That's one good attempt that Outer Terror has above Vampire Survivors. I like that I get to explore and find quirky NPCs and help them with their own agendas. To be honest, it's hard for me to judge this game because maybe I just missed what it was supposed to be. Maybe it's not a game for me. Maybe it's supposed to be a campy mess that feels like a classic, ruthless arcade game designed to steal your quarters. If I were rating this game based on that alone, I'd probably give it about a 7.5 out of 10. But taking it at face value and comparing it to other titles in the same category, which is really all I'm left to do here, I'm leaning more towards a 4 out of 10. I encourage you to check out Outer Terror for yourself, which is now available on PS5, Nintendo Switch, and Xbox, as well as PC. It did relatively well. People seem to enjoy it for the most part. So again, I say choose for yourself because I do think there is some value to be found in a game like this for certain audiences. If you liked what I had to say and you enjoy this type of content, please consider subscribing to this channel. I also manage a board game content channel, Winter Moon Tabletop, which you can subscribe to here. Leaving a like and a comment really helps me out a lot, so thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to watch, and I'll see you next time.